Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's coverage of the Northwest Racing Series and its ARCA Series, live on LSRTV, presented by Tom Dencho Auto Group. The Tom Dencho Auto Group has 3 locations: Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram in Hermiston, Oregon, Ford in Hermiston, Oregon, and Ford and Prosser, Washington. They have inventory. Where many manufacturers and dealers are struggling with new vehicle inventory, they have it. With more than 800 pre-owned vehicles, upfront pricing, and total transparency, they do what's right every time. They come to you with remote test drives, remote trade appraisals, 100% online transactions, and nationwide delivery. They make it easy. They make it fun. For more information, go to TomDenchoAutoGroup.com. Tonight, we're at iRacing's virtual Dover International Speedway for 200 miles of racing action. I'm Justin Prinzel on some of the booth tonight. Sam Dyer with Charles Wooden in the director's seat for what's expected to be an intense race tonight. Tire wear expected to be big, and Miles the Monster expected to take some victims tonight, Sam. This is not the easiest racetrack for these competitors tonight.
No, not at all. It is going to be a tall task and all about focus. For 200 miles, that is a very long race for these drivers, and it's going to take all the focus in the world to make sure that, like you said, save those tires, as this track just loves to eat up that wear and tear. As now you're looking at your Race on Texas race information. We're underway with qualifying, and then we'll be soon for 200 laps of racing. But Justin, the tires and also the outside wall seem to be one of the biggest factors that these drivers are going to have all day.
Just 3 sets of tires, 2 in the pits for tonight. So it's going to be very important to make sure you keep the tires underneath you for tonight's action. Now, let's talk a little bit about this track as a whole. Of course, this facility has been around for many seasons, opened in 1969, but has only been concrete since 1995. 24 degrees of banking in the corners, 9 degrees down the straightaways. It's a self-cleaning racetrack, and many drivers are reporting loose conditions coming off the corner, Sam.
Yeah, loose. You got to really be focused and have that throttle control if you're feeling loose coming off the corner. And a lot of drivers are going to be coming in pretty easy into these corners, but that is going to be the exit always seems to be the hardest aspect of this racetrack, because you've got that outside wall that sneaks up, and if you get loose, there's not a lot of apron for yourself to save your vehicle if you start to slide down to the inside, which could be causing a big calamity. And Dover's kind of known for making a lot of pileups for these drivers. It's going to be incredible to see how they are able to attack, stay patient, and able to stay as much on track and moving forward as possible.
And keep in mind with the concrete surface too, Sam, the weather conditions have seen fluctuations in your track temperatures. Let's take a look at your soundboy.com weather conditions. As you can see, 74 degrees is the air temp, partly cloudy skies at the moment. But that track temperature has been bouncing back and forth, Sam, throughout the practices and into qualifying. It's been as high as the 110s. It's dropped down to 99 degrees with the clouds settling over the racetrack just before qualifying.
Yeah, drivers are going to be loving the fact that it is partly cloudy. When the cloud cover comes in, the track cools off. You got a little bit more grip to work with, and that loose sensation that they're dealing with will start to calm down for about a lap or so until that cloud moves away, and then the heat cranks back up. So always it's going to be a balancing act on how well you're going to be able to save your tires, and also how much grip there really is on the track.
Let's take this opportunity also to talk about how things have been faring out for the championship side of things. Ryan Bloom, by the way, is your points leader, 317 points scored on the season with 8 top 10. Still looking for the first victory. James Vining, 277 in second. Stephen Paulson enters tonight with 267 points in third. Robert Gambill, Frank Harris, the top 5. But it was Dan West Jr. who took the victory at Kansas Speedway under the lights last time out. And a 134-lap affair, the West Family Racing Machines were fairly dominant in that race. It's the question, though, of who can get momentum tonight, Sam, as big opportunities for several drivers to try and secure victories.
Yeah, I mean, looking at some of the drivers that are going to be racing here tonight, I mean, Devin, I mean, that of Moore, he's going to be someone to watch out for Dennis Moore. And then also, I mean, looking at some of the other drivers that have shown up and raced well, Kevin Smith, he has been on a roll recently. He won back at Las Vegas earlier in the season, but I think if Kevin Smith had more starts, he would be up there battling with Ryan Bloom. It's the fact that Bloom and James Vining have the most starts starts, so they've got that extra amount of bonus points to work with compared to the rest of the drivers that have less than the total amount of races that have been ran.
It's going to be interesting indeed for some of these drivers. And to swing back towards the tire side of things, this is a racetrack where tire outages, or rather tires being blown, can happen here, Sam. How do you try and manage that for tonight, especially with the long runs? Because while the fuel window is expected to be up to 90 laps, the tire window is much smaller.
Yeah, the tire window is very small. The driver's going to have a total of 4 sets of tires to work with, 1 that they have at the start of the race and 3 sets in pit road. So they're going to have a couple of pit stops to work with. Most drivers probably going to be aiming for, instead of going that full 90 laps, maybe going 75, 80 laps for their pit stop, just to try to conserve, so they're not going to be fully wearing down these tires, because with the new iRacing model of tires, you can easily blow up with these tires, and it's going to be a very hard lick if you find yourself turning into the corner and your tire goes.
Absolutely, especially at this type of a racetrack, and it's going to be intriguing how things fare out. Drivers are wrapping up qualifying at the moment. Sam, what else do you feel fans should keep in mind before they take the grid?
Yeah, conserving tires was my main focus for a lot of these drivers as well. Stay away from the wall. My third focus has to be patient. It's 200 laps. You are going to be very irritated with the driver in front of you if you find out that they're saving tires while you're trying to go forward. Be patient. You can easily just wait for someone to slip up, overdrive into the corners. That's probably going to be something that we're going to be seeing a lot, is drivers coming in a little bit too fast in the corners and really blowing their entries and giving opportunities for passes.
This is the type of racetrack where it can take several laps to set up a pass, so that patience is going to be very critical for our competitors tonight, especially with this concrete surface and the chance where if you push too hard, you can burn up those tires and pay the price for it by the second half of these runs. But drivers are now wrapping up the final moments of qualifying for tonight's action. It was a very close practice session entering tonight, with only one driver in the 22.8s, being Kevin Smith. Only one driver qualified in the 22.9s for the preparation for the race tonight. It's time to get ready to look towards your starting grid for tonight's action from Dover International Speedway. Your starting grid brought to you by ComServe Wireless, with Dennis Moore being that only driver in the 22.9s tonight in qualifying. That was a 22.959 to put him on the pole alongside Kevin Smith's 23 flat. Carl Burke will start in row 2 alongside Frank Harris. Row number 3, it's Ryan Bloom starting alongside Judd Wakefield in the 23.1s were those drivers. While in row 4, in the 23.2s, it was James Viney and Robert Gambill. Dan Sturzi qualified in the 23.3s, and in the 24.4s was Martin Tomic. Then the last two drivers set towards times, Aaron Cooper and Toby Ritter's 11th and 12th. And then in the final row, it's a split between those recorded times and those who did not. Scott Hara did set a time. Eric Cheney is projected to be among your drivers starting. The last of the drivers on the grid, Ray Fournier, along with Troy Daggett, and Matthew Joseph Spa are among the drivers who have attempted practice laps and or are all set to take their way towards the starting grid. But all of the drivers are lined up behind the iRacing pace car to have made it in time for your starting grid for tonight's action. Your keys to victory tonight, Sam, as we get ready to go racing for 200 laps.
Yeah, it's really tire conservation, like I said, patience, and also stay away from the wall. And another thing is, when you do get aggressive, make sure you're not absolutely plowing into the car that's going to be on your outside. A lot of drivers are going to feel that urge of, once they get, a little bit ramped up and tired of being behind someone, they can really be sending it into these corners and not being careful that they are going to be pushing up the wall. So just be careful of your awareness and surroundings. This is going to be a fun race here tonight.
Drivers now rolling of note. Cheney and Spa did not make it to the starting grid, so that gives us 15 drivers who will take the green flag. Who's your pick to win tonight?
I want to say Kevin Smith again, but I've got a feeling Carl Burke. He's someone that looks surprisingly quick. Up going to be starting up in third place. I think this 53 might be a driver to watch out for and could be trying to knock down that of Dennis Moore and that of Kevin Smith.
We'll see how things fare out here at the Monster Mile. The question is, who will take home the checker flag? It will be claimed by Miles the Monster. We're about to find out. It's Dennis Moore in control of the field. Dennis Moore, 1 victory, 2 top 5s, and 5 top 10s entering tonight. Looking to bring more momentum forward in the Beaver State Racing Machine. iRacing pace car is off. Green flag waits up at the stand. And now we are underway for the Monster Mile. One bad tire spin from Dennis Moore as Kevin Smith passed by him on the outside before they got to the start and finish line, Sam.
Frank Harris, great launch coming out of the corner here, and here he comes up to second place for the 11. Dennis Moore, he's got a lot of work to do now, trying to get by the 11 and the 00.
To see if that was too big of a jump from Kevin Smith, but what a start from Frank Harris to move himself to second. Dennis Moore with a very poor launch in the 44 machine. And at the end of the first lap, it's Kevin Smith leading for now by a couple car lengths up the front of the field. Carl Burke holding on to 4th position for the time being.
Yeah, for Moore, that has been a struggle, both in the Cup machines and also in the ARCA for these restarts, is he just always finds a way to wheel spin it. But man, Frank Harris, he was wanting to attack a very shallow entry there into turn 1.
Yeah, Harris got a little bit loose coming off of turn number 4. That's why, in part, he had that shallow run. He's charging these corners very quickly, though, and is having to back off the corners more than some of the other competitors already.
Starting to see these drivers up front really pushing it. And I think for Harris, he was being aggressive in those first 2 laps, but he's backing off. I like this strategy. He's not trying to use up his tires too much, but if he keeps on, he's really doing some very clean entries of these corners the last couple of laps. I think the 11, he's setting up for later in the run as Kevin Smith and Dennis Moore, they are really pounding it to the ground and trying to go as fast as possible.
Battle is going on right now for 4th position. That's Ryan Bloom trying to work the very bottom of the racetrack. And when it comes to Dover, it can be difficult to make a pass. As talked about, it can take several laps to set it up, and you've seen right there, Bloom just couldn't get the run he was looking for in the bottom. Good job by Burke to defend.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Bloom's, like I stated, patience is key. He's got to just wait. And right now, I think I got to say, James Vining, huge surprise for me. He's running so well in 6th place. Points-wise, needs to finish in front of Ryan Bloom if he wants a chance to keep on trickling into and getting into that point standings. But behind him, Judd Wakefield gets hard into the outside wall and out into the inside wall.
He is now rolling into the middle of the racetrack as he gets hit for the first caution. That's Dan Stuzzi. My goodness.
Oh, looks like Troy Daggett also involved. Another one of Aaron Cooper tagged into this thing. It just keeps on piling up.
Let's take a look at the Pulse Popper replay as Wakefield definitely ended up hitting the wall coming off of turn 4, but what happened afterwards was definitely a broken axle.
A broken axle, a lack of holding the brake. I mean, there's a couple of things. More cars just trickling in, and Troy Daggett almost got through, but he got clipped there. And oh man, that is a massive first wreck of the night.
Let's take a look at this from Dan Stuzzi, who had nowhere to go in this, because you do not expect this to happen. Had already been running the middle line, and then bye-bye.
Yeah, just a poor guess. I mean, he had to guess either outside or inside, and we talked about how this track is kind of a self-cleaning track, so you're expecting the cars to go low and you to move high. Just did not work out in that factor.
So Kevin Smith, your race leader, by the way. Frank Harris, Dennis Moore, Carl Burke, Ryan Bloom, now the top 5 for the time being. Wakefield and Stuzzi are in the pit lane. There is a fast repair available. That's the bright side. Troy Daggett by the way, has not elected to come down and get his fast repair used, as he has lost the TV panel on the back end of his machine. Of note as well, Matthew Joseph Spa has made his way onto the racetrack, but he is 7 laps down in the 80 machine. An intriguing start to this one, but Kevin Smith was trying to pull away quickly.
Yeah, this kind of ruins Kevin Smith's strategy of trying to pull away and run as fast as possible. You got multiple different scenarios here where you can run as fast as possible early in a run with these tires being equal, and hope that you got a big enough lead that the drivers that try to save their tires can't catch up in time. So when everyone pits and when you're quick for the first 5 to 10 laps, those tires are ruined for the rest of the stint. There's really no way of coming back as drivers coming into the pits, it looks like, with that of Carl Burke leading that charge.
Actually, Frank Harris is the one who ends up coming around into the pit lane. In the 11 machine, Daggett and Cooper come down this time as well. So an interesting call from Frank Harris here, as he'll go to his pit box. And how do you feel about this strategy call as he continues to search for his pit box?
Yeah, Harris coming in. Harris is used to starting further back in the cups and trucks. Here in the ARCA, great qualifying run. Looks like he's just going with fuel. This is an interesting call for the 11 with that type of a stop this early on. I mean, if you're pitting now, if you're starting up front, you're expecting this race to continue to go green for the rest of the way, but I have a very strong opinion that it's probably not going to stay green the rest of the way. As Dover, it's the monster mile for a reason. It just eats cars up for dinner, and you really don't have a chance of having too many long green flag runs, but this is a very risky call for the 11, but hey, it could work out. This is an odd strategy, but I'm excited to see how it turns out for the 11.
By the way, all 3 drivers did get a fast repair usage there, and Harris, Daggett, and Cooper. So those drivers are already down that fast repair at 190 laps to go. Getting ready to get back underway. As to reset your field now, it's Smith and Moore, Burke and Bloom, Vining and Gambill, Tomic and Ritters, Fournier and Scott Hara rounding out the top 10 for this restart. The drivers who pit 11th on back, Stussy and Wakefield, are still in the pit lane with significant damage repairs. Check that. Stussy just finished his fast repair 3 laps down in the 78 to be 14th. So we'll have to see how this restart goes. This is going to be a big one for Moore after the poor launch to start off the race from the pole.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time. If you're going to have a great restart, why not have it on this second attempt? You now know can't get on the throttle that soon and that abrasive. But, for Dennis Moore, he got that first hiccup out of the way on that first start. I'm expecting a really good start here from the 44 and try to hold off everyone else so he doesn't have to worry about trying to pass another driver.
The iRacing pace car is off field in the hands of Kevin Smith. And going right into the middle of the corner, and Dennis Moore with a poor launch again. Carl Burke trying to move up the second as the green flag waves. The bottom line catches the top sleeping and then some with the poor launch from the 44.
Dennis Moore is going to lose another position. He's now back to 5th position and finally finds a spot to slot himself back down. Worst case scenario for the 44 there.
And you have to wonder, is it just the timing of the start, or maybe it's the gearing, because this is the second time he's had a similar bogged down start?
I think it's just the timing. I mean, Kevin Smith, he's taking off right when they're hitting the front stretch, and it's kind of throwing off the 44 just because he's still in the corner, so he can't take off as quick as he wants. But man, Kevin Smith, he's now trying to take off like a rocket ship, but he's got Burke, Vining, and Bloom following out very closely behind.
Those drivers now all lined up in a row. Vining misses the bottom this time, though. And keep in mind, this racetrack is one where it's a unique type of line that, well, you can take it a couple different ways, really. Some like to keep it flat right up against the edge of the concrete to the pavement. Others like to do a double apex here, Sam, rather, where you try and diamond the first part of the corner, rise up a bit in the apex of 1 and 2, and then diamond it again.
Yeah, that double apex type of a corner, when you are trying to diamond it out, it really helps the launch out of the corner. But when you just stay smooth and low, it's a better way of trying to save your car from really launching up into the wall. And really, you're seeing the difference here as Burke is being hounded by Vining.
Vining right now trying to build up a run right now in the 53. He's the quickest car on the racetrack last time by. Vining waiting for the chance to peak. Kevin Smith has been running a bit higher of a line compared to the other drivers in the top 3, keep in mind. As these drivers now look to dice it alone, Smith slides up an extra lane.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Dover is, yes, tire wear is the main focus, but what's really a different thing about this track is that it is kind of, if you overshoot it, you can overshoot a couple of times and you won't be hurting your tires too much. But if you really mess up the entry of this corner, lap after lap, your tires are going to be burned off by about lap 20 of Green Flag Racing. These drivers got to be careful not to extend with too much speed into these corners.
Keep in mind, Carl Burke's at top 5 speed all season. It's just been about putting a full race together in his regard, and so far, he's been able to put things very well together. Lost a bit of time coming off of turn 4 to make it about a 0.6 of a second disadvantage, but he's been doing very well in these first 19-plus laps. As lap traffic ahead, it's Dan Stuzzi fresh out of the pit lane that they'll have to drive around, as Kevin Smith had to slide way up the racetrack, lost him a lot of time.
Yeah, this is the problem with lap traffic, is if they decide to stay low and force you to go high, it can cost you time just like that. As now our top 4, all close to about a half a second between all of them.
And how frustrating is that as a driver when that can happen, though, because this is the type of racetrack where it can happen several times in a run.
Yeah, if you're so off the pace, and Stuzzi seems to be completely off the pace for himself, the leaders are already a full straightaway off of Stuzzi just after a lap. So we might be seeing the 78 another, time around just in the next 5 laps or so.
We'll see how things fare out. Half a second now the advantage as Carl Burke is starting to lose a bit of pace. 0.2 a lap now to your leader. And Vining wants to try and peek his way on by. It seems like he is currently boxed in right now. That's the tough part of trying to get the move done, is get enough momentum to get side by side.
Yeah, if you're going to make a pass here at Dover, you kind of have to make your decision early, coming off the corner with the momentum that you have, and duck low practically halfway through the straightaway. As here comes Vining to the inside, and Burke's just going to easily give that position away as they're side by side coming through 2.
Burke, though, with the squeeze right at the quarter panel, half a lane off the wall as well, as the caution waves behind him. We're under yellow for the second time tonight. And I believe it was for the 80 machine down the front straightaway here, Sam, and new to racing had problems coming off the corner and ends up flying sky high.
Yeah, you're going to be seeing it here. He's blinking in and out, and for Spa, he's been having internet issues. He told everyone before the race started that he might be blinking in and out of this race, and you saw there. It was hard to see, but the 80 went flying off the nose of Troy Daggett, and that's going to be bringing out our second caution of the day.
I think Daggett, as a result of the technical issues for Spa, may have gotten away with any damage, but we'll see how things now play out strategy-wise. We are still outside the projected tire and fuel windows to make it on one stop or so in this race. Ray Fournier is taking this opportunity to come down and pit in the 26. Other than that, no one else is ducked down.
Yeah, I believe Ray, he's coming in. He's just puttering in, might try to get some service done, and trying to get a net gain here. If he decide to take tires, I mean, this is a risky time to do it. Looks like is going to be taking fuel and then off for the 26. So, for some of these drivers feeling like, hey, why not stretch it out a little bit further with these caution laps? It's giving them some time for those that haven't pitted to save fuel, and for those that are pitting to get fuel and top off, they're saving their tires for possibly a longer run to go on.
Absolutely, and the thing that's going to start popping up more and more, though, is the potential for tire spin. How do you try and mitigate that if you're some of these drivers now, since all of them are now on their old sets of tires that have seen more than 15, 20 laps of green flag action?
Yeah, if you've got a lot of, experience with older tires and on how to restart them, you might be seeing some guys trying second gear still to do restarts. Other drivers that really don't feel comfortable with the older tires and the potential of wheel spin, they're probably going to start in third gear so they're not, really cranking up the RPMs and torque for their machines. But I mean, that's going to be the different level, and that's what's so great about the ARCA series is it's giving these drivers that experience to try different aspects of restarts and saving their tires. And I think for a lot of them, I'm expecting a few drivers up front to try second gear still, but we might be seeing some of the feet back just try it in third.
We'll see how things play out when the green flag flies. Again, to emphasize, for those tuning in for the first time, Northwest competition with its ARCA series sees this as a developmental and intermediate league where, as you mentioned, it's the chance to build skill and confidence for the new drivers while giving the chance for them to also compete for victories, where the top drivers for the Truck and Cup series are not allowed to race full-time in the series, but they are allowed to race down on occasion. It's been an intriguing race so far, though, where a lot of these drivers trying to build their names and build their skills have been really having some great battles so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome to watch our top four and the way they've been really on top of one another. And I'm excited for this restart because this is going to be giving us the best showing. Was the restart because Kevin Smith had the best launch, or was it just because that outside lane is just a trouble spot where we're going to be seeing everyone backing off and having their issues? As Kevin Smith, they're all stacking up, getting ready to go here, Justin.
So it's Kevin Smith in the race lead, James Vinings in second, Carl Burke, Ryan Bloom, and Dennis Moore round out the top five. Robert Gambill from 8 to 6. Toby Ritters has gone from 12th to 7th. Tomic is in 8th. Frank Harris in 9th. Troy Daggett rounds out the top 10. And Race Control has advised the drivers of the potential of tire spin here for this restart. And already Kevin Smith is backing them up a lot from the iRacing pace car. He may go in the corner again here, Sam.
Yeah, expecting it. It's a different driver on his outside, so why not do what you've been doing so far on these last two starts? Kevin Smith just waiting, lingering, pushing up the 33 a little bit more.
And there we go. Green flag is out. And the drivers mitigate the tire spin. No major tire spin from anyone in the field. James Viney able to hold on to second, while Ryan Bloom able to hold on to the top four. In fact, the top five all hold station. Robert Gambill tries to push it from 6th position. Nearly knocked down the wall coming off of turn 2 as they go single file again.
Yeah, single file very quickly into this run, and credit to that of James Vining. I mean, he had a great launch, especially with the way that Kevin Smith tried to take off so early in, and now we're starting to see how our front runners, they're going to be attacking this, as it just looks like James Vining, he is just trying to set up Smith here as he is right on the back bumper.
Taking a little bit of a peek once more. It's the matter of how things will fare as this run goes on. That's the big thing. As a bit of scrape to the wall for Kevin Smith, he's done that a couple times here, Sam, where he's tried to arc it into the corner and has scraped the wall.
Yeah, I mean, you can scrape it maybe two to three times and get away with it. And then if you do it any more than that, you're going to be causing some permanent damage unless you can get that repaired on pit road. And you don't want to get too much aero damage here, as it could really affect, especially with, you touched on the fact this setup is a little loose for the drivers coming out of the corner. getting some of that aero damage could actually affect that even more if you get any more damage on either quarter panels.
Smith able to plant it on down in the middle of the apex that time to grow the distance amongst the top 5 cars. The top 5 have built up a buffer of nearly a full second to the rest of the pack. There's that second group right now. Robert Gambill has already dropped back to 1 second behind Dennis Moore.
Yeah, and Gamble's not running too off of Moore, running pretty similar, but just our top 5 really took off so early in this run that it allowed them to just pull away. Gamble and Toby Ritter, they've been duking it back and forth for most of this race in these first 30 so laps, and it's been great to watch how they've been trying to figure this out, with Gamble running high sometimes and Ritter just sticking as low as he can. But if he stays that low, he might be turning the wheel a little bit more and more each time he comes by. And yeah, I mean, running a little bit higher could be helping out just those tires a little bit more.
We'll have to see. Keep in mind, Toby Ritter's one of the fastest drivers in practice the past few weeks. It's just been about translating that speed into race pace. And one of the main things I've heard from some as a result has been trying to make sure that for some, while they may not have the hot lap pace, it's about balancing out the tires. As now, James Vining takes a little bit of a peek to Kevin Smith, fanning out to the bottom.
Yeah, Vining seems to be so much faster through 3 and 4. And then you start to see Carl Burke come into the mix, but now we're starting to see a pass there for 3rd place as Vining continues to just hound that back bumper. And this is the patience where you just have to wait and try to build up your momentum coming out of the corner, as Ryan Bloom able to make the pass for 3rd.
Made it look easy going into the corner that time. Started all the way through 1 and 2 as Carl Burke now starting to drop back. 23.9s from the race leaders. Carl Burke 24.5 up in the top groove as he'll have to let by Dennis Moore here, possibly with how high he is up in the groove this time. Have already lost 5 car lengths as a result of this battle alone, and that's also a tough part. You battle here for too long, you can burn up your equipment and quickly, Sam, as well as lose a ton of time.
Yeah, I mean, Dennis Moore went from being on the back bumper of Bloom to now being about a little over 6/10, almost 7/10 back from that of the 25. So it really can spread people out if you stay side by side for just a full lap to 2 laps. If you're side by side any longer than that, both drivers are just hurting.
James Vining again, another peak. Thought about it again to the inside, instead backs it up in the corner. Kevin Smith, though, clips the apron. Here comes Vining with the run. Will he take it now? No, not close enough.
Yeah, it just seems like Vining is feeling, yes, he's got the speed, but he's trying to pressure Smith to make a mistake like that. Here comes the 33.
James Vining all the way to the bottom. Kevin Smith nearly all the way to the 3rd line as he's still able to power his way up on the top line. My goodness, here comes Ryan Bloom, though, to try and take advantage.
Bloom has been in the best spot. He hasn't been challenging anyone really that much. He pressured Burke to go high, and it really wasn't too much of pressure to hurt those tires for the 25. He's got to love this pressure that's making Smith run higher, using up a little bit more of those tires. And Vining, he's doing his best. That was probably his best run so far, but now he's got to build up all that momentum again. And it's going to take probably another 3 to 5 laps before he has another really good shot to get by the 00.
Have to say, Bloom has been one of the quickest drivers on the racetrack amongst your top 3. He's been setting some of the quickest times overall. It's not going to be easy for him to pass by both of these cars, though, because the difference is only by a couple 100ths per lap amongst this top 3. They are near identical with lap times right now.
Yeah, and Dennis Moore, even behind them, he's running very quick to those drivers, and so he's just waiting for them to get mixy as Moore he's coming in, but we're starting to see the spread out again where Smith was able to gap himself. It might happen again here if we stay green until those green flag pit stops, which I think if for some drivers, if they're aiming to maybe turn this race into a two-stop race. They might be throwing it out to possibly lap 75 to 80 with the caution laps that came in. Could push it out to 85 if they feel comfortable enough.
We'll have to see how things play out strategy, because here's the risk of going with the three-stopper for the tires is you take that extra pit stop, you're essentially putting yourself a lap down, and it's going to be tough to claw your way back from that far down.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the leaders right now, they're running about a second, 1.2 seconds slower than what their best lap time was. And it only takes about 3 laps before you really start losing that time. So it really, I don't know if it would be a net gain to add an extra stop. But I think for some of these drivers that are further back, being led by Frank Harris in 9th place, he could be a driver to watch out for, as might be thinking about saving his fuel. But here comes Bloom and more.
Ryan Bloom thinking about going for second and does. James Viney will let him and Dennis Moore go. Riding all the way to the third line that time. So Ryan Bloom up 3 spots. Dennis Moore recovering after his poor launches off some of the starts and restarts today, as Kevin Smith again has clipped the apron for the lead. All of this has made it a 3-car battle for the race lead as we're approaching the quarter distance through.
And Bloom's got to make the pass just in one corner. If he stays side by side, Smith has already shown that he's got the strength in double zero. If he needs to get off the corner well, he can really pressure that car on the inside and really not fully commit to the pass. But Bloom, he's going to set up here probably next lap, coming off of 4. Watch out for the 25, but it looks like he might be thinking now.
Thought about a peek towards the quarter panel, forced to check up a little bit. Still stays within half a car length though. And this is the matter of just keeping a rhythm here. This is a rhythm-based racetrack. If you don't get yourself in a good rhythm, it's hard to carry speed.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure out how to enter these corners, and for about 5 to 10 laps, you're pretty much feeling the same with how the car's feeling. And then after that, might feel a little bit more wear and tear on the tires. So you might have to turn a little bit more, maybe slow down into the corners, touch a little bit of brake later into a run. And you're going to be slowing down a lot more, but it's going to help your exit off the corner that's where you can make these passes. As here comes Bloom.
Got a great exit and run down the front straightaway. Ryan Bloom to the race lead for the first time today, and Dennis Moore is knocking on the door for second. Takes a peek on the double zero and makes it look easy. So top 2 have now changed to Bloom and Moore. Smith back to 3rd.
Now Smith and Viney, they'll duke it out, but Moore, I'm curious on with Bloom and how aggressive he's trying to move forward and get up into the lead. What's his tire is going to look like for these next 20 to 30 laps? Will he have enough rubber to try to hold off that of Dennis Moore? And Moore had that really long battle with Burke. That could be costing the 44 from having a chance to really catch up to the 25.
Yeah, it's looking like Smith has burned up his equipment now. Is a couple tenths off the pace at the moment compared to where he was before. Bloom able to pick things up on the speedometer and the stopwatch now. By the way, some of the air battles starting to form up. It's towards the back end of the pylon. Aaron Cooper, among the drivers who have topped off for fuel, able to make the pass. Now getting the run back is the 04 on the high side as they go back and forth.
Yeah, Hera and Cooper, they have been at it since we went green. And what's amazing with this battle is, oh boy, Hera goes extremely wide, almost into the outside wall. Got to be careful there for the 04. But I mean, that's a great move on his part to understand, hey, I'm going to get up to that wall, back off my pace. Already used the fast repair. Let's not try to ruin my race already and not be able to repair that type of damage.
Whereas Carl Burke falling, by the way, he is now trying to hold on to 5th. You can see Kevin Smith is trying to hold on once these air battles as we scan through. You can see Smith. He's seen a significant more amount of fall off by 0.3 a lap. So is James Viney compared to the top 2.
Yeah, this is just showing if you are being aggressive and trying to be the leader in these runs, it's not always the best strategy to be the fastest with the fresh rubber. It's how do you keep yourself balanced and have the fastest average lap time in a stint on a green flag stint over a quickest first 25 laps.
And that's the key, absolutely. It's just a matter of making sure you don't overexert those tires. And now, seeing the result of overexerting some of the tires for some of the competitors. Carl Burke, we mentioned, had already fallen back to 6th position as well from how he had pushed his tires.
Smith and Vining, they keep on battling as much as they are. Looks like a driver in the back, though, in 9th place. I think Robert Gamble might have gotten close to that outside wall. He lost a lot of time, giving up position to Frank Harris.
Drove it all the way to the 3rd line, and as we've seen throughout the night, if you run up on that groove, it is so easy for you to wash up and hit the end of the safer barrier and then ping pong into the inside wall. You need to be low on the corner exit. Plus, there's a dip in turn 4 that can catch drivers off guard and spin them loose.
Yeah, especially with this loose setup they have, it just makes it so much worse than what they're dealing with. If the setup was more snug for these drivers, but for most drivers, the saying was, if you're loose, you're going fast. If you're tight, you're burning off the tires.
Approaching 140 laps to go in this one. Let's check back in with your race leader as lap traffic is ahead. Ray Fournier, now the next driver in line to lose a lap, has already fallen to the tail end of the lead lap. Ryan Bloom makes it look easy, and this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Dennis Moore reaches him at the wrong spot, loses some time. This is a balancing act where you have to try and avoid the lap traffic here, Sam, and try and minimize time loss.
Yeah, I mean, you got lap traffic. They're trying, we got some drivers are going to be trying to stay on the lead lap just in case the caution comes out. They don't want to be that lucky dog position and stay on the lead lap, so they're going to battle as hard as possible. And you might be seeing those that are multiple laps down backing out early to give you as much space. But if you're that first lead lap car that's catching up to lap traffic, you hope that they get out of the way as soon as possible. You don't have to worry about them coming off the corner just like Moore was.
It's looking like, based on what we're seeing, by the way, that these drivers are indeed going for that 2-stop call that we were talking about. Here's the question, though. Do you think drivers may try and stretch it further based on the numbers we've seen because the cautions earlier?
Yeah, I mean, if they were going to go for like a 2-stopper, lap 70, 75 would be where they're aiming for here. I think for a lot of the drivers, they're going to be probably trying to aim for almost a 1-stop. Might be going for a lap 80 to 85 window, and maybe even some might be thinking about 90. For those that pitted under our second caution of the day, they could be making it go a little bit further than those guys that were able to save fuel that never pitted.
I'm looking at the drivers at the tail end of the lead lap that are going to need to fight and claw for some time. They may mathematically get within a 1-stop under green. It's going to be tight, though. That's the thing, and they're already losing heaps of time in the 26-second bracket, some of them. You can see with some of the traffic starting to spar out in front of your race leaders.
Yeah, I mean, we're on board with that of Dennis Moore and Ryan Bloom right in front of him. You then got the battle of Troy Daggett and Scott Hara. They're still battling as Bloom almost got caught up with a mix-up from the 51 of Daggett.
That was hairy, to say the very least, and the time of that corner exit. And now, Scott Hara is the next driver to potentially lose a lap here, but put us into 10 cars in the lead lap. The 04 giving space on the bottom of the racetrack, and Dennis Moore, as a result of that traffic, though, now on the back bumper for the race lead.
2 terrible times to catch lap traffic, and now it's given Moore the opportunity here. Right on the back bumper, coming out of 4. Here comes the 44. He's going to be going for the pass here, entering turn 1, as they're coming up to more lap traffic.
Couldn't get the full-on peak, though, to the inside into the quarter panel. Might get a chance, though, coming off of turn 2. Goes in for the send to turn 3. And Bloom will give him the space and give him the spot. Dennis Moore to the race lead. Your pole sitter able to recover from 2 botched starts in this race to lead his first laps of the day.
Yeah, now for Dennis Moore, he's got to be praying that of Aaron Cooper kind of just gets out of the way as smoothly as possible. Doesn't have the same scenario that Ryan Bloom did. As, oh no, Cooper's going to stay low, forcing both the drivers go high. And this is costing time possibly here for Bloom if Cooper goes high, but he's just going to give up space. And that's a screw, boy. That's going to be costing Bloom even more time as he's not able to confirm the pass just yet.
Side by side still with the lap traffic and a ton of time lost, nearly half a second lost in that side by side exchange. They still hold on to a 2-second advantage over third, but the damage is done for Bloom. He's now fallen back to half a second from your race leader, losing 0.2 the past lap.
And while that passing was going on, Troy Daggett decided to come into the pits. I think the 51 and got into some issues, and he might have been caught speeding as he is still in pit road. And it looks like, nope, he's parking it for the day. That's going to be our third DNF of the day.
Let's take this opportunity, Sam, to talk about this pit road entry because it's one of the most difficult in all of iRacing because of the transition from the concrete to the pavement, the degrees of banking, the speed, and that 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. You likely could see drivers lock it up and spin around trying to get to the pit lane tonight.
Oh, very easy to lock it up, spin it out. I think the biggest weapon the drivers have to watch out for is the water barrels at the entry of pit road. If you come in speeding and just carrying a little bit too much speed, it can really cost you on time and also could ruin your race fully. As we continue to watch these drivers that are battling, this is for 10th place, those that are around here, and also mixed in is 3rd place of Kevin Smith trying to get by lap traffic.
And Smith able to dive underneath, and Aaron Cooper lets them on by. Indications are coming in for pit stops. Robert Gamble is already ducked to the pit lane. Frank Harris is ducked in. Also, Carl Burke expected to come down in the next lap or so. So pit stops are underway. Martin Tomic has also indicated he's coming down in the 79 machine.
I think for a lot of these drivers, they're recognizing I'm losing too much time to the leaders. I've got to come into the pits now. Hope that a caution doesn't come out. But when you're losing so much time, you got to come in. And Burke following suit here with Tolmec. And man, this is a tough toll for those drivers. But for front two, it's going to be a chess match on who's going to be coming in first between the two of them.
It's going to be interesting. We're now at that lap 75 mark, 125 laps to go. No indications from either of them this time. They have that flexibility to be able to push on forward. And here's the benefit of going further at this point is you'll have fresher tires compared to, say, others who are ducking down like Kevin Smith. Because while you sacrifice the time now, you'll be the quickest cars on the racetrack.
Yeah, and that's going to be so helpful to have that better rubber. And I think for Moore, he's going to try to stay out there as long as possible. He's running slightly faster, almost a full 10th faster than Bloom. And for Bloom, he's got to scratch and claw and hope that he can force the 44 to come in, get a lap or two, fresher tires, and be massive for the longer run ahead.
As well, the undercut can be very powerful here. The fall off has nearly reached the 25-second mark for our race leaders. Dennis Moore, though, he's been able to stretch the advantage out because he's setting the fastest laps on the track by 0.4 a lap at the moment.
Bloom has to come in. He has to come in this time by. He's losing too much ground. Yes, you don't want to be the first car to pit, but you cannot lose this much time on track. But Bloom continues to stay out unless he knows he can gain time somehow and hope that Moore has an issue. This is a huge backfire to the 25.
We'll have to see how things play out. Dennis Moore has been having some strong runs lately, especially on the long run. Keep in mind, we're seeing that. The thing is, you have to make sure you don't have any pit road penalties, and that's something that can pop up with some of these competitors for tonight. He's been fast in all the Northwest Series. Dennis Moore has for the past few weeks in particular. As Moore has indicated, he'll come down this time, and this is going to loosen some time. He's going to pit coming into turn 3 onto the apron, and Ryan Bloom able to pick up a little bit of the time back by waiting a little bit longer for his entry.
Yeah, it almost came in, and I thought for a second Bloom was about to launch himself back onto the racing surface. Luckily able to stay on the apron. But both the 44 and the 25 coming in this time by. It's James Vining staying out a lap further. He might go an extra lap over this to try to get a big enough advantage, try to stay with the pace of the 44 and the 25.
Toby Ritter's also stayed out. We'll see how this plays out. And this is the entry we're talking about that most are expected. Trying to cut down right there. Vining, though, with a big slow up at the commitment cone. At least 10 miles an hour slower than the cone.
Yeah, I thought for a second Vining was going to go right into the water barrels with the way his car was angled, but locked up those brakes, really cut it in, and that cost some time. But, you know, based off the time that he was going to lose from entering on the entry of turn 3, it kind of equaled out there.
By the way, Ryan Bloom lost a significant amount of time coming out of the pit lane compared to Dennis Moore by 2 seconds. In part with the pit box location, but as well, just Bloom could not get a good launch coming off the access road in the apron, so he has lost at least 5 seconds off the pit lane.
Yeah, what was looking like he was going to be about, at most 2 seconds away from that of Moore. He's now almost 5.5 seconds back from the 44. Dennis Moore is doing a great job for himself. He just has to continue to stay this consistent and hope this race goes green. And I think Dennis Moore is looking for his second win this season.
Toby Ritter is, by the way, the only driver yet to pit this entire race. And he is trying to stretch this as far as he can. And here's why this would be big. The entire field is a lap down. If there was a caution at this point, this can completely change the race.
Yeah, and right now it's the 26 for a foreigner who's going to be trying his best, as he's a driver that could be pushing this out and possibly get to, a little bit further than lap 100 if he wants to pit. And trying to, under green flag conditions, pit only one time. But Kevin Smith, he's already making the pass. This strategy just not going to be working out for that of the 26.
5-lap undercut, keep in mind, from the comparison between Smith and Moore. As now, Ritter's nearly knocked the fence down as he's now able to straighten it out. Kevin Smith already able to get his lap back as Ritters gives the squeeze and Ritters makes contact. He's able to save it as Moore hits the back end of him. Caution is out. And boy, does this change everything.
Toby Ritter he bit off way more than he can chew on 87 lap old tires, and you can't pinch like that. As here's your Pulse Poppers replay of this incident. It's the 23 trying so hard to pinch, and it just did not work out.
Yeah, just came down with a bit of contact and then looks okay until it wasn't.
Yeah, Dennis Moore, he had nowhere to go. I mean, he picked his lane already. He was committed to where he was at, and he was at the mercy of the drivers that were going to spin in front of him. And 44, that's a lot of front-end damage that he did not want to utilize, and he might have to use a fast repair this early on.
And now we'll have to see how things play out. I believe 5 drivers may be on the lead lap as a result of this caution flag, as drivers will now get the opportunity to go in for pit stops. With that, we'll take a quick break. You're watching LSRTV for coverage of the Northwest Racing Series and its ARCA Series.
Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, right? Our Ram trucks, truck of the year, amazing trucks. We have fun Jeeps, and then the exciting Dodge and Chrysler products. Lots of performance there, lots of excitement there. They've done a great job in really creating a full scope product line that could suit everybody's needs. Whether it's a family vehicle or a fun vehicle or a utility type vehicle or a big truck, we've got it all for our customers.
Currently under caution as we approach the halfway point here for the Monster Mile, and boy oh boy, did Miles the Monster get some cars collected for this caution flag. Toby Ritters was able to get a faster pair and stays in second. Kevin Smith is now your race leader. Justin Prince, Sam Dyer with you with Charles Wooden in the director's seat, as several drivers are now going to have to take the wave arounds here, and Ryan Bloom, it appears, has been officially scored as one of those wave around cars. Frank Harris, Martin Tomic, Carl Burke, James Vining, all are pinned and have to take the wave here to get back in the lead lap. So they'll have up to 15 lap older tires here. Tough break for some of these competitors with the caution.
Yeah, this is kind of a worst case scenario. I think all these drivers really hoping to see everyone go fully through that cycle, but you know, that's the big charm of trying to stay out as long as possible, as Ritter did, is it gives you that advantage of if a caution comes out, and due to his kind of doing, and now leaves a lot of drivers on the back foot with being so many laps off on their tires. This is going to be very hard for them to try to keep up with the pace of those drivers that just got fresh rubber.
And keep in mind, Kevin Smith did not elect to pit under caution, so he is electing to keep his tire set. This is also going to be a very tough part for him in terms of this. So this is where the tire strategy starts to come into play as well.
Yeah, it looks like almost everyone is on the same strategy of tires, except for that of Ritter and the 26 of Foreigner, who's going to be on the same set as they're going to be on the freshest of tires compared to the rest of the field.
So at the moment, it's Kevin Smith in the race lead. Dennis Moore is right alongside. A little bit fresher tires. He used a faster pair only under the caution flag period. Toby Ritters on fresh rubber is in third. Ray Fournier in fourth position on fresh rubber. Then you have the wave around drivers: Ryan Bloom, Frank Harris, Martin Tomic, Carl Burke, James Vining. All are back in the lead lap. Robert Campbell, the first driver, 1 lap down, had been one of the first pitters in that sequence. But we're all set to go, and you can see how interesting things are up here. Only 2 drivers side by side. The rest of them lined up on the inside for the green flag.
Yeah, all those drivers had to take the wave around. They had to stay on the inside lane. But Kevin Smith, better launch. Dennis Moore, though, that's the best launch he's had all day.
Able to improve absolutely compared to some of their launches, as Ritters is able to clear on by some of the air traffic. That's Scott Hara, who is in the 11th position. Here comes the race lead, though. Kevin Smith gives the space, and Moore back up to the race lead of the Beaver State Racing Machine.
Yeah, Kevin Smith easily gifting that position, recognizing the better tires and just saying, hey, you take it, as there is now a complete just gaggle of cars here battling for 4th place. I mean, for 5th place, Harris, he is surrounded by drivers that are on a lap down.
Clean having a battle with some of them. You can see some of that scrapping. Ray Fournier has already dropped back to 7th position. It is losing time despite the fresher rubber at the moment. Martin already losing another spot. That's James Vining able to make the move.
Vining on pretty rush rubber compared to those that he's around. Expecting to see that 333 moving forward. man, I gotta give credit to Kevin Smith. He is keeping it close as we're still watching this action. I mean, wild to see. Vining's got to be careful. He's got some drivers that are all over the place in front of him.
Darren Cooper, that is for position for 12th spot, taking away the spot from Hera as Tomek also able to move on by. By the way, up at the front, you can see Dennis Moore has now been able to start saving a little bit, it appears. They're running half a second quicker than Toby Ritter's at the moment.
Yeah, and Ritter's on fresh tires. I'm surprised Ritter's is not pushing as hard, but you know, with the fresh rubber that he has, he can really just stay at this pace that he's running for almost about the next 30 laps or so, as the other drivers, since they've been out there for so long, they could be dropping back here very shortly.
Already approaching the halfway mark as talked about here, and what's been an intriguing one. Keep in mind as well, Sam, the strategy is simple. It's a one-stopper. It's the matter of when these drivers elect to come down. That's going to be the interesting. Marcus Moore scrapes the wall, misses the bottom of the racetrack as a result. Kevin Smith now goes for the lead back.
Yeah, the wall being like glue to the 44, ruining his entry, and now the battle for the lead. It's completely on, but Smith didn't get the best launch out of 2, which is giving Moore the chance to hold on for the lead.
See if Dennis Moore is able to avoid the sticky glue of the wall that time. Doesn't take as big of an arc, but is able to hold on up at the very front of the field. Moore, though, a little bit loose coming off the corner this time as Smith now follows him as the caution waves.
Finding others piling in. It's another big one.
And we're under yellow once more after what was an interesting sequence down the front straightaway. James Vining trying to pass by the lap car of Aaron Cooper.
It's oh man. Just Cooper, you don't know why. I mean, he's probably thinking if I stay low, the drivers on the lead lap are just going to go around, but that is not how it went. 71 is now parked it. He's stuck in pit road.
Let's take a look as James Vining had already looked to the bottom in the previous lap. You can see he's already side by side. And keep in mind, the normal line for lap cars is typically on the top line to give space. James Vining ends up getting to the back end of him, and around they go into the heart of turns 1 and 2.
And just really hard licks for all those drivers that were involved. Martin Tomek is also going to be another one of those drivers heavily involved that you saw initially hit the back bumper of Vining, and he's going to have to get some repairs done for the 79. But this is massive because some of the drivers that were involved with this had already used a fast repair. Might be in there for a little bit longer than what they wanted to be.
We're at halfway this time, but now on lap 101 total, 100 complete. In this one, reset your field. It's Dennis Moore, Kevin Smith, Toby Ritters, Ryan Bloom, Frank Harris, the top 5. Ray Fournier in 6th position. Burke, Tomek, Vining, Gambill, the current top 10. That could shuffle based on pit stops. And now, have to ask you this. The temperatures are dropping here on the racetrack because the clouds down to 93 degrees Fahrenheit, to be precise, for our weather conditions. How do you try and keep on managing that with the amount of rubber buildup? Because the grip is going to continue to potentially go up, it seems, since the in-sim time is now past 4 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, for these drivers, it just means that loose sensation that they were really feeling early on in this race tapered off just slightly. But we saw there from Dennis Moore, he was still getting loose, even though that the temps have dropped dramatically since the start. But it gives these drivers a chance to really not wear out their tires as much as they would be. But with the more rubber buildup, it's giving these drivers a chance to maybe run a little bit higher, find that grip somewhere else. And we touched on it, those two different styles of how to attack these corners. I think with the more rubber that gets built up and the cooler temps, the more I'm really liking the double apex types of entries into these corners.
How do you try and manage the tires on the concrete compared to the pavement? Because the reason I ask is it's completely different surfaces, and I know on the open side of things, Sam, it's a balancing act to try and manage the heat because the buildup is much more different compared to normal asphalt.
Yeah, I mean, for these drivers here today, I mean, it's a lot of letting off on the gas, not entering as fast as you would, and also focusing on how much wheel input you're putting into these corners. If you're able to really hit the corner properly with entering high and coming low, the car almost wants to turn on its own through the corner, so you're not cranking the wheel as much. But if you have a shallow entry or you're coming in with too much speed into these corners, you really have to put a lot more wheel in, which is wearing your tires out and really balding them on the sides, which means you're going to just be getting a lot tighter on the entries and not be able to get the best exit off the corners.
On the go signal, we'll have 97 laps to go when the green flag flies. And I'm really curious to see now how this all fares out, because you have Ryan Bloom that's on older tires now, that's going to be starting the outside. You also have drivers like Frank Harris on 3-lap old tires, but then you have drivers who have just had to come down, and it appears for some have elected to use a set of tires along with their fast repair, like James Vining. They're going to be some of the quickest cars on the track now.
Yeah, Vining and also that of Tolmich, they're going to be the ones to watch out for. I think for 11 and 79, they were involved in that last accident, but they certainly are going to be the favorites moving forward with that fresh rubber, as well as for the 56 and the 54. They're going to be running a little bit further back, but they've got fresh rubber to work with as well.
My racing pace car is off. Dennis Moore in control of the field, and a good launch from Moore. Green flag is out, back underway. Here he changes lane to the start and finish line and does pop up to be able to get the arc. Ritters goes for the attack for second, backs it off though.
A little bit of redemption there from Moore from the start of the race, but here comes Kevin Smith with the momentum already to the inside.
Able to get a great run into the corner and a great pass for the race lead for Kevin Smith. Dennis Moore now drops back to second. Ritters now goes on the attack.
I mean, out of our top 4 right now, Ritters has the best tires out of all of them. The 23 certainly has a great opportunity here to try to attack these drivers, but it just seems like once heat gets built up into the tires, that's when we start to see those that have been up front stay up front.
Kevin Smith, keep in mind, has been great on the short run today. Dennis Moore has been great on the long run when it comes to the tire differentials. James Vining, by the way, matching the race leader's times on the fresh rubber, is already up to 6th position.
I mean, Vining, he's up to 6. He's got Frank Harris in front of him. I don't know how much Harris is going to be blocking here. That was the biggest thing that Vining was having issues, was drivers blocking him, as Bloom going to be getting by Ritters. Ritters stays high.
Just in front of these drivers, you see the tail end there as the top 2 have now been able to build up a gap of 1 second compared to the rest of the field, half a second between Smith and Moore. Is this too far out is the big question for Smith, because remember, he fell off by 0.3 a lap in the closing stages of the first run before pit stops.
I really do think so. I mean, he already came into this green flag stint that we're having with about 5-6 lap older tires when they pitted under green. Moore did come in and took a little bit more fuel to top off when we had that caution. So I'm interested to see how Dennis Moore is going to, it just seems like he's willing to back off, save these tires for those final about 30 laps or so before everyone has to think about pitting once again.
By the way, a gaggle of cars have started building up side by side with the fresher tires. Seen a little bit in the bridge, the backdrop, as Vining and Tomek have moved up positions right behind the second place car of Dennis Moore. You see some of them now getting into a rhythm, and this is going to be intriguing how it plays out in the long run here, because we're talking 30-lap fresher tires, not including the pace laps, keep in mind, for James Vining and Martin Tomek. Carl Burke is also in the conversation of that. He had also pit the following lap during the pit stop sequences under caution.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm looking at the times that are being put down. Vining, one of the fastest cars on track currently. So you got to watch out for Vining. He certainly is coming, but he's got to figure out how to get by Ritters and Bloom. We'll see if they're going to be easy in just giving up their positions or fighting strong, as Ritters now being pressured.
And Ritters now gives the space all the way up to the third line as he drives it down to the squeeze of the 79. Both drivers able to make the move, though. Move Vining and Tomic up to 4th and 5th, respectively. Vining, quickest car on the racetrack by a 10th last time by.
And it's going to be Tolmec right behind him. That's the second fastest car. Both of them really just powering down and recognizing that they need to gain as much time as possible. That last lap, they lost a little bit of ground by trying to make the pass on Ritters, but expecting them to take it all back and more. Now it's going to be Bloom who's set on their tracker.
Keep in mind, we are now inside the projected window for fuel. To make it to the end, that was at the max 88 to 92 laps. Drivers could make it on the gas for this race. So we're inside that mark where we could see pit stops, especially towards the midway portion of this run possibly here, Sam.
Yeah, I think for a lot of the drivers that made a pit stop here on this last, caution stint that they had, they were able to pit, and they're going to be pushing it probably with 40 laps to go. So around 160 to 165, maybe even up to 170, they might be making that final pit stop to try to gain all this time back. For all the other drivers, they're aiming for around 140 to 145. That's their window for when they're going to be coming into the pits.
See how those windows fare out indeed for this one, as Vining trying to see how things fare out with the battle with Ryan Bloom. Takes the peek to the inside with the bobble. Not close enough to make the dive quite yet. And Vining's keeping things nice and patient here, I've noticed. He's not overexerting these tires. He's trying to keep the car nice and balanced, it appears, since he's got the speed. It's just a matter of the track.
Yeah, and he also doesn't have that fast repair in his back pocket anymore, so he has to be patient. If he gets over aggressive like he was towards Aaron Cooper, that could be the end of his race. And for Tomic, he's making a big risk by trying to follow that of Vining so close. And with Dover, I like to say you don't want to do a little bit of monkey see, monkey do, because if a driver gets up into the wall and you're following him, you're going to be caught up in his mess.
One thing that's going to help them gain time, the battle for the race lead. Kevin Smith has started losing time again to Dennis Moore, and Moore wants his lead back. Gets the better run to the bottom off of turn 4. Will he get to the quarter panel to try and keep it side by side? No, he backs it off. He'll reset. But the rest of the drivers are now within about 3/4 of a second of him.
Yeah, I mean, for Moore, he needs to make this pass as soon as possible, especially with Vining and Tolmich being so close to the 44. They got to make this pass quick, because the longer they wait, the better chance Vining has to taking the lead.
Dennis Moore back to the lead as Kevin Smith thought about a move, and Dennis Moore nearly makes a move to the inside wall. Able to hold on to it with the bobble. Kevin Smith with the boost on by, and now all of a sudden it's now a 5-car battle for the race lead. Smith with the run nearly doors the 44. Bit of contact as Smith still holds on to the top.
A little bit of rubbing, they're okay. No, if Moore can get by cleanly, it's now going to be putting the pressure on Bloom. But Dennis Moore still hasn't been able to make the pass. Staying side by side like this, it's hurting their chances of getting away. And Vining, now he's going to be possibly losing the position for 4th. Tolmich might be the one who's in potential chance to take the lead.
Hitting the wall was Vining as Bloom taking away 2nd now from Moore in all of this. The mistakes starting to build up from Dennis Moore once more in this race. Remember, it was the starts that first hurt him. Now it's the turn 2 exit that's starting to get things loose.
Don't look now, but Carl Burke, he's now latched onto the tail end of this thing. It's now 6 cars in line. Our top 6, all within a second of one another.
Moore gets a good run, Vining over the back bumper though. Bloom now trying to take a peek once more at Kevin Smith. Moore now takes a peek for second, though, as Bloom bobbled up the racetrack. Moore back to second position off of turn 4 as they go side by side again.
When they're staying side by side like this in a pack, it just puts a lot of pressure on the driver on the outside. If they just drift up just slightly into that outside wall, it could bounce them off into the inside wall, which could collect more drivers, or it could really stick them into the wall where they're just going to be losing more and more time. A lot of pressure on Bloom right now. Well, you're starting to see Kevin Smith. He might have been caught by Moore, but now he's able to pull away. So does Moore. And due to the side-by-side racing from Vining and Bloom, it's giving our front two time to pull away.
Bloom and Carl Burke both drift up the racetrack, as then it's Tomek now that's trying to gain spots 3 wide down the backstretch. Can they make this work? The answer's no. Up the track goes Bloom into the wall. He straightens it out. No caution. We stay green. As trouble down the front, Kevin Smith ended up hitting the wall.
Dennis Moore absolutely terrified on the fact of the 00 coming back in front of him. But this is now putting really the pressure on Dennis Moore. Smith again off of turn 2 issues for the 00.
And he's got a problem. He's got a broken suspension. He rode the side of his door down the front straightaway. Kevin Smith from the race lead now drops down to the pit lane. It's Dennis Moore that's going to be your race leader as a result of that mistake from Smith.
Smith was trying to become a 2-time winner in the ARCA series. Not going to be able to do that here today with that type of damage. He's going to need a caution to get back into this thing. Dennis Moore, though, he's looking to be a 2-time winner this season. And Vining looking for his first win as the battle for the lead. Here comes Vining in the 333. He's got a shot here. He's just got to be patient. Wait for his time for the 44 to make a slip here in the next 3 to 5 laps.
Those fresher tires really coming into play now. To the inside, Vining to the race lead. Can't complete the pass yet, though. Moore now with the squeeze. Moore with the slide up the track, and Vining now clear. He leads his first lap of the day.
Carl Burke, very dangerous 3-wide move that worked out for the 53. Now he's mixed up into this thing. He's almost about a half a second away from Vining and Moore, and Burke wasn't side by side with all the drivers like we were seeing for Vining and Moore. His tires looking good. Same stint that Vining is on. That is the same as Burke.
Yeah, and that's now the big question. How will things fare for both Burke and Tomek here? Here's the gamble that is going to be the risk here. Everyone else is going to have that extra set potentially in the pits. But we've seen the trends. It's been trending green, so this gamble looking like it's paying off for now for Vining, Burke, and Tomek so far.
Yeah, and they don't have to worry about pitting here for another, fuel run-wise, another 60 laps, which would leave them with about, 10 laps to go in this race. They could do an easy splash and go and hope that they've got a big enough lead with that saving of time to maybe win this race off of that strategy. Could be thinking about a 2-tire stop for these guys if they come down into pit road. For Dennis Moore, though, as well for the other drivers that have had issues, they're going to have to come into the pits here probably in the next 40 laps or so. So that's going to be around lap 65 to 70 that they're going to be aiming to come into pit road.
It's going to be very intriguing now how things play out. As now, Moore is starting to build some speed back up, by the way. He's now even things out. And now it's the question of, did Vining burn up his stuff even with the advantage on the tires now? Or is he trying to save a little bit as Moore hits the wall?
Oh, man, that's another just poor entry for the 44. He continues to have these woes, and sometimes you kind of lack focus on where that outside wall is when you're coming into these entries, trying to make a big, bold arc into the corners, and that outside wall can just sneak up on you. It looks like it wasn't too bad of a hit, but Moore still gaining time just slightly here on the 333.
By the way, Judd Wakefield elected to come down and pit in the 50 car, so he is currently completed service. That'll shuffle him to 12th position. Kevin Smith is also back on racetrack in 11th position. 3:10 still your gap between first and second. Carl Burke keeping things smooth. Give a shout out again to Tomek, your biggest mover of the race so far, +6 from his starting position. He's been quiet. but he's been able to have some great speed and keep that car clean for the most part.
I mean, Martin Tolmich, I mean, he's done a great job for himself. He was involved in that vining incident that brought out our yellow, and he came down, and it looked like he was following that of vining, and ever since that little bit of a scuffle of going 3 wide and then touching Bloom, he's decided to back off just slightly here and kind of just in a save mode, it looks like, for the 79.
Ryan Bloom, by the way, now letting by Toby Ritters once more. They have been going a bit back and forth for position, in fact. So we'll see how things play out for Bloom. Remember, Ritters is also on a bit of a different tire strategy. He's now starting to build up a run on Robert Gambill. In fact, Ryan Bloom's coming in. Ryan Bloom is coming in at 63 to go this time by.
In the window of making it, got to make sure he comes in without speeding, and oh, that was close, but I think he got in just in time. And Ryan Bloom, he's now going to make sure, perfect pit stop. Don't slide into your box, don't make any mistakes, and this could be his money stop for if we stay green.
And this could be an intriguing call, and keep in mind, he was one of the drivers who had to take a wave around one of the caution flags earlier in this race. So into the stall. Meanwhile, James Vining still continues to lead as they pass by Scott Hara. It's now within a car length and a half, though Moore is picking up the tempo.
Yeah, I mean, Vining, he had 11 lap advantage over that of Moore tire-wise, but, you know, we've been green for so long, for the last 30 laps or so, that now it's equaled out on how the tires have reacted. Vining was being so aggressive and brutalizing that on his tires that now Moore is kind of on equal footing, even though Vining had that slight advantage tire-wise.
So now it's the matter of how they played this out. They pulled away by more than 2 seconds from the rest of the pack and are running up to 0.3 of a lap. Frank Harris, by the way, has ducked into the pit lane this time by. That currently scores us with 7 drivers on the lead lap for the time being.
Yeah, Frank decided to come in slightly earlier than I thought he was going to be, but Frank he's trying different strategies out, going to be pitting early in. He knows that he's good to make it to the end here. I think tire wear was the main reason why this 11 decided to come in at this point.
Indeed. Service 14.5 seconds in the pit box overall for him as we take a look back at the race leaders. And those numbers are going to be more and more in the focal points here, as now Vining gets a little bit squirrely coming off of turn 4. Clip the apron as Moore closes back in.
Moore he needs more of those little mistakes from Vining, and it's going to give him an opportunity. I think Moore needs about 2, maybe 3 more mistakes that Vining needs to make. Maybe run a little bit higher through the corner like he is. It's giving time for the 44 to get a great run coming out of 4, but just not close enough to really attack with that momentum. Vining, he just needs to make sure he runs smooth here in his first one of the season, looking very good for this machine and this team. I mean, Vining, what a major gain this would be points-wise, as he's 40 points back from that of Ryan Bloom. This would be massive for him if he can get a win here today.
This will be massive if Toby Ritter's going to hold on to a top 5 as well. He is now picking up some steam after really struggling on the short run despite being on the fresher tires. Scary moment there you just seen for Frank Harris in the backdrop, by the way, as Harris had to go 3 wide on the fresher tires.
3 wide and at the hardest point through the middle. He almost clipped that of Wakefield on the entry of the corner and then almost took out Gamble on the exit. But with that of Harris having the fresh tires, he is cruising and trying to make sure that he's only 1 lap down once everyone comes into the pits. Now closing in on 50 laps to go.
Right now, James Vining leads once more by 0.3 of a second. Carl Burke is 3.7 seconds behind. Tomic has dropped to 4.2 back. Ritters is about 15 seconds back, with Robert Gambill also in tow. Ray Fournier is also the last car in the lead lap. Everybody else, keep in mind, is 2 laps down. And the biggest question mark is going to be, how will this play out for Ryan Bloom? How do you feel this can play out for the 25? Because he's now on the massive undercut gamble. He's gaining some time on the racetrack as one of the quickest competitors, gaining 0.6 of a second a lap. Is it going to be a big enough of an advantage, though, to be able to hold on once the leaders pit, you think?
I mean, he's running about 0.6 faster than what our leaders are doing. For that of Ryan Bloom, he's got to cross his fingers and hope that the leaders push their fuel and their tires to their max. Go out to maybe with about 20 laps to go and hope that he's got over a 20-second lead. I don't think that's going to be possible for the 25 of Bloom, but he's got to do everything in his power, and he's continuously trying to gain as coming to the pits. Oh boy, Moore is already in. Yeah, no, this is not good for Bloom.
And this is the undercut call, though, to be able to try and leapfrog past James Vining. Got to be important that Vining responds quickly, and Vining is currently trying to deal with drivers. In fact, Vining is going to lose a ton of time. A very early pit call. He started slowing down in the middle of the back straightaway. This may cost him the lead.
Decided to be conservative on the pit entry, and this is going to be costing him at least a second, maybe even 2, possibly 3 seconds of ground on Dennis Moore that went with more of an aggressive approach into pit entry. Also going to be following suit to Scott Hara, but man, Vining, I don't know if that's the right call. He could have been aggressive on the pit entry, could have kept it equal footing, and now he's got to hope this 1 lap advantage of tires is enough to gain all that time that he just lost.
Once again, slowed down the middle of the back straightaway to duck down. Dennis Moore may be able to jump on forward by a significant margin as a result. Carl Burke actually passed him by a good 5 seconds. That's how quick it was. Vining left in the dust by Dennis Moore by at least 6 to 7 seconds from that call as Tomic is ducked down to the pit lane.
And Tomic was on the same exact strategy that Vining was on when they pitted on the last caution we had. Now I'm going to stretch it out a little bit further. Carl Burke, I like this call from the 53. He's much faster on fresher rubber. He's got to push it out as far as he can go, so he knows that he can just be the fastest car out there, doesn't have to worry about saving.
It's going to be very critical. Keep in mind as well, it'd be his final tire set. Toby Ritters, meanwhile, would have 1 set available still in the pits. Only 1 pit stop for Toby Ritters this entire race. He is currently holding on by 1.2 seconds to the second position. Robert Gambo is also stretching it for the time being. Dennis Moore is already closing in on these drivers down. In fact, Moore is going to work to the high side and get squeezed into the wall. Contact with the fence for Dennis Moore with Robert Gambill as he works his way back up high. That's going to put damage to the 44.
Gamble already apologizing, and it just seems like there was just a miscommunication there for both those drivers and recognizing where they were at. As man, that is not good to see. But might have been Olmich. He's coming back into the pits, it looks like.
May have had a penalty as a result for him coming down that second time. And this is a tough pit lane, keep in mind, especially to try and make sure you don't speed. By the way, pit road speed limit 35. He went 55 in the middle of the pit lane. That's why he came down a second time, and he's accidentally used his last set of tires.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, why not just take it, hope for the best? But yeah, I think that is a mistake. You really don't want to take another set when you've only been out there for maybe 3 laps on the set that you just came in for before getting the penalty. That's a rough call for the 79, as he's also being held.
Robert Gambill, by the way, has ducked down and nearly got into Frank Harris. He tried to send it into turn 3 and nearly doored the 11.
Yeah, Gamble, that was a very risky call, and that's the one thing is when you got drivers coming down on the apron on the entry of 3s, if they're not being conservative and trying to be aggressive there, it launches your car up back onto the track. That's exactly what happened to the 54. Luckily, everyone survived, able to make it through and keep on moving. Carl Burke, Ritter, and also that of the 26 of Ray Furner are going to be still out there racing, and those are our final 3 that were waiting to make their final pit stop.
These drivers now at 40 to go. And boy, oh boy, has it been an intriguing race so far. With big moments, big battles, big passes, and learning experience for all involved for tonight's action. Still waiting to see when Burke comes down. He's on his 60th lap on the gas.
I mean, Ritter's been out there for 72, and same for the 26. They've been out there for over 70 laps on the fuel and tires, and they're just hoping. I think for Ritter, he's hoping for the same thing that happened on our last green flag pit stops, which is for a caution to come out.
Yeah, that has to be the gamble. And we've come close to it a couple times. It's just a matter, though, of trying to see how things fare out. By the way, James Vining has passed by Ryan Bloom in his undercut call. His undercut call for the 25 did not work out. He didn't even jump past Dennis Moore in the pit stop sequence.
Yeah, I mean, for Bloom, he lost so much time from getting forced up into the wall. When we saw that 3-wide pass, it just did not go well. And had to come in, was already slow. So even with the extreme undercut, didn't work out, and it's looking like he's probably going to be falling back even more. He'll be lucky to get a top 5 finish here.
Burke is starting to lose time as well from the race lead. He has dropped off into the 25 threes. Here's a question. Do you think there's a chance he might be able to save enough gas to get to the end?
I mean, that's asking for 35 more laps. Burke says no. He's not even going to try stretch it. He's coming into pit road.
That answers the question immediately, doesn't it? A late call to come to the pit lane. And this will give the lead for now to Toby Ritters. Bring us to 2 cars left on the track, and those drivers are now about 77 laps on their fuel tanks. They can go for about an hour 13 at the very most.
Right now, 5 drivers left on the lead lap. Ryan Bloom going to be trying to get himself unlapped, as well as that of Frank Harris and Gamble. As Harris and Gamble, they are really duking it back and forth. With Gamble, fresher tires, he's just making this climb.
Oh, and Ritter's nearly hit the wall right behind Ryan Bloom right there.
Ritters might have to think about pitting here soon as well for the 26. They're just losing so much time. They were trying the same strategy, stay out there as long as possible and hope that you might be having enough time to, a caution to come out or some type of incident to make it to where they could stay out up front. But they are now just losing time. More drivers are going to be being put back on the lead lap. Burke is the next driver trying to get himself unlapped here. Gamble's trying to race around the whole entire course again to possibly get himself unlapped.
Turn 1, Judd Wakefield has spun into the grass coming off the pit lane. And he's been able to get himself back going. We stay green for now as long as he doesn't come up the racetrack. Some space being given by James Vining and company. But Wakefield is back rolling after a spin coming off the pit lane on the apron.
Yeah, I mean, that was the caution that Ritter was hoping to see, but because it was off course and on the apron and in the grass, no yellow gets to be waving here. And now everyone is back out there running strong. Dennis Moore, he's now moved up to 2nd place, and he's less than 8 seconds away, now almost less than 7 seconds away from Ritter.
He is currently closing into the gap by at least 1.5 seconds a lap. And Toby Ritters has elected to come down and pit this time by, so the 23 will give up the race lead, able to stretch at 82 laps, and Dennis Moore will move back to the lead with 31 laps to go.
This race goes green. Dennis Moore is looking very good, as the lead is almost up to 9 seconds is the difference. James Vining, he had to use his tires up so much because of being conservative on the entry of pit road that it's backfired. He's losing more and more time. Even with the 1-2 lap advantage that he had coming into the pits, there was just too much ground to pick up with that conservative pit stop.
Yeah, he is currently 9 seconds behind Vining is right now from that very conservative run and losing 0.2 a lap to Moore. Ray Fournier is also ducked down to the pit lane, by the way. And that will mean for now, we're down to just 4 drivers on the lead lap. Moore, Vining, Bloom, and Frank Harris, who's been having a very solid run today.
Yeah, I mean, Harris, he had a very odd after our first caution of the day, 8 laps into the race, decided to come in pit road, dropped him all the way back to 10th, 11th, and he moved up to around 7th place, and all race long, he's been slowly making his move forward, now up to 4th, and a great run for himself. It looks like that of Burke trying to get himself unlapped, and does so. So now we're down to 5 drivers on the lead lap.
Yeah, there's a good chance that Burke gets there as well, and Burke's been able to put together a very solid race. No major mistakes, no major incidents, kept the car clean, and now able to pass by Kevin Smith as well. So the focus now, close up a 5-second gap. He closed in more than a second last time by on the 11.
We're coming up to 25 laps to go. I mean, with us staying green, this race is clocked away extremely quick. With that, I mean, there's been a lot of drama. I mean, at one point, I thought Dennis Moore's race could have been done when he got pushed up into the wall, but I mean, I'm surprised with him being pushed up into the wall. It doesn't look like there's any real damage on that right side.
Yeah, just a few scrapes on that 44 machine. Other than that, no major suspension issues, no fender crunches, no major aerodynamic issues. Even with the little crinkle to the spoiler, has been able to just drive along at his own pace. And it's not been the easiest race for Moore, keep in mind. He's had to battle from mistakes. He's had to battle from poor starts earlier on in the race. He's had to battle from incidents. He's been able to battle through it all to get himself here now in the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest saving grace for Dennis Moore is the fact that this race went green. His race was really poised on the fact that he had a great long run machine. He was quick on the start if he had to be, but really understood how to save these tires to make sure that he was the fastest car at the end of the race where it really mattered the most. And with us staying green, I mean, it's looking good that we're going to be staying green, but in front of our leader of Dennis Moore, there's 3 drivers really duking it around, and that's Carl Burke in the middle of a lot of traffic.
He's already made the move on Frank Harris. He's now got to make a move around Toby Ritters. Ritters, keep in mind, is on a little bit fresher tires. In fact, dives underneath Ritters as Ritters nearly pushes up into the wall. Driving right on by Ray Fournier also. A little bit dicey there, as now Ryan Bloom is within only about 1 second of Carl Burke.
I mean, this looks easy for Burke right now. Burke is the fastest car on track. He waited out the longest, and got to give credit to the 53. He pushed it as far as he could. I don't think there's enough time for him to catch up to even get close to Dennis Moore, but looking poised, at least get 3rd place.
And the poise ends up leading to the pass as Bloom is in the wall.
Oh, Bloom, that is a very hard lick, especially being launched off the ground. And I'm wondering if he's going to have to come into the pits with that type of a lick.
And it's looking like he may have to. And this may be a race ender, because he's already had to come down for one hard hit like that earlier. We'll have to see. This will cost him at the very least the top 5, unfortunately for Bloom in the closing stages here.
This is going to have been a chance for that of Robert Gamble to be able to get another top 5 finish. He had 3 coming into this race, looking for number 4 for himself. Robert Gamble, I mean, he's been caught up in a little bit of incidences here or there, but due to Bloom's misfortunes, he's given a 5th place finish possibly here.
A big time opportunity now as Bloom has gone to his pit box and has already lost a couple laps. See how things fare out for the 25, all while Burke tries pulling forward. As it appears Bloom has gone off and away with the 15-second pit stop. He'll try and recover some of the time lost on the racetrack. It appears he's down a couple laps, though, is the downside.
Yeah, he's going to be trapped between that of the 26 and the 79. He'll be the only car 3 laps down. So it's tough to see here for Bloom. But he's got to get as many points as possible. He can't just park it for the day because that's going to give him more points to Vining. He was trying to catch up points-wise.
Down to the final 15 laps. Dennis Moore now with a chance to lap by Toby Ritters once more, and does.
Probably the easiest pass Toby has given all race long. He has been a handful and probably the toughest person to pass all night. We've seen him pinch almost everyone, fighting and clawing for every position. Toby in 6th place. What a great run it's been for the 23. Even with his one real caution-making move in the middle of the race, but great job for the 23.
Yeah, I think he's going to be pumped up either way because for a lot of drivers, these runs matter in terms of confidence, in terms of being able to build themselves up. It's a great opportunity to be able to build momentum is the key thing.
With these final laps, everyone's pretty gapped out from one another. I think the closest margin that we could be seeing is maybe for 2nd place here in just a short while. Carl Burke, he has a lot of time he needs to gain back up as we're inching closer and closer to 10 to go. But with those fresher of tires, the 53 is just trying his best to run down James Vining and just to make that difference a little bit smaller.
2/10 gained. Is the gap too big is the big question, because he was closing a second a lap before, but now that the tires have sort of equalized down a bit, it's not going to be easy to close in even with the 15 lap differential on the tires here at Dover.
Yeah, I think for Burke, he kind of got a little bit giddy, seeing that differential really closing in with how hard he was running. It was something that we kind of touched on earlier of you could be quick in the first 20 laps of a run, but it won't actually make you be the fastest through a whole entire stint. I think if Burke was kind of pacing out his time and really kind of conserve these tires all the way through until the end of the race, I think he might have had a chance to catch up to Vining, but these tires, they're starting to equal out. Probably next lap, they're going to run almost identical times. Then after that, I think Vining might be running faster than Burke.
The one thing that may help is some of this traffic on fresher tires that's closing in. As you see Scott Heron nearly knocking down the wall right behind him, able to keep it off the fence. But to get to the point, if there's any cars that battle with Vining, that's the one thing that may help Burke. We're inside 10 laps to go, though, here at Dover.
Dennis Moore, what he has been doing is amazing. I mean, this team as a whole, they've been getting so quick in the ARCA series, had a win coming into this race, and he was just one of those guys that you knew that could be fast. He's been fast so well during the cups and the trucks. He's been translating that speed from the ARCA over to there. He won back at Darlington, his one win of the season, trying to be a multi-time winner in this series. And I'm looking at the stats, and I think if we see more win here, he could be our first multi-time winner in the ARCA series.
An impressive feat with 6 laps to go, though. Anything can happen. Have to say the Beaver State Racing drivers have been really strong when it comes to this series. We've seen a couple of their cars throughout the campaign. Whenever we see those orange and black machines on the racetrack, that team seems to have blistering quick pace.
Yeah, it's crazy. It doesn't matter what racetrack they're at. I mean, Beaver State has just been on top of it week after week. As for a second there, it looked like Smith might have been slow, but I think just because of his tires being so worn down, he's just so slow through the corners, and it kind of shocked me for a second there.
4 laps to go for Moore. And here's the battle going on involving Kevin Smith with his tires. He did led by Ray Fournier just a lap ago. And right now it's been really struggling. Vining, keep in mind, is also driven on by. He has maintained a 3.3 second gap between him and Carl Burke.
Yeah, lap traffic has hurt both Vining and Burke at this point, as Burke's now going to be passed by Ryan Bloom. And Bloom, I mean, at least he's going to get a top 10 finish for that 25 when he looked like he was poised to do better. Kevin Smith, he has to come into the pits. The tire's just so worn out, doesn't feel comfortable on the track, even with 3 laps to go.
And this is going to cost him a few positions for the points, but 2 laps to go now for Dennis Moore. An impressive drive for him once more today, Sam. Having to battle through all the adversity. Has been able to hold on, and now just a lap and a half to go.
Yeah, coming through 3 and 4. I mean, Dennis Moore, he had all of his restart issues of just spinning the tires so much. Coming out of 4, though, coming to your CRN1 to go. I mean, what a run this 44 has had, coming back after probably a terrible first quarter of this race. But ever since then, he's been the driver to watch out for.
It's been a battle of adversity all day, but for Beaver State Racing and Dennis Moore, it's the chance that will move him all the way into his 2nd win of the season. Dennis Moore wins at Dover.
Wins at Dover, becoming our first multi-win driver this season. I mean, this is poising for Dennis Moore to keep running along. This is only his 7th race starting. He's about 2 races back from, that of Ryan Bloom and of James Vining, but still there's a lot of pace in this team, and they're looking good and poised to try to go for a championship here in the ARCA series.
And now he'll get the chance to burn things down with an impressive victory of more than 15 seconds. What a drive for Dennis Moore, and what long run pace from that 44.
15 seconds over that of James Vining, 19.1 seconds over Carl Burke, and the rest of the field 1 lap down or more. Just dominance from this 44 team.
Absolutely, as the celebration party now joins him now in the front stretch. Let's take this opportunity with this to show your unofficial race results in this one. Dennis Moore takes home the checker flag by 15.5 seconds over James Vining, with Carl Burke rounding out the lead lap finishers in the podium. Frank Harris finished 1 lap down in 4th, with Robert Gambill in 5th position. Toby Ritter's 2 laps down in 6th, with Ray Fournier in 7th. Ryan Bloom in 8th position. Martin Tomic recovered from a speeding penalty of more than 20 miles an hour to finish in 9th. Kevin Smith rounded out your top 10 still, Sam, despite a late pit stop.
Yeah, and then in 11th place, you're going to see Scott Hara as well as Judd Wakefield. Wakefield coming back after bringing out our first caution of the day. And then the rest of the field not able to finish out this race, with Aaron Cooper, Troy Daggett, Dan Stussy, as well as Matthew Spa not able to finish out this race. Eric Cheney never even took the green.
Post-race coverage coming up in just a few moments. You're watching LSRTV from the virtual Monster Mile.
Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, right? Our Ram trucks, truck of the year, amazing trucks. We have fun Jeeps, and then the exciting Dodge and Chrysler products. Lots of performance there, lots of excitement there. They've done a great job in really creating a full scope product line that could suit everybody's needs. Whether it's a family vehicle or a fun vehicle or a utility type vehicle or a big truck, we've got it all for our customers.
Welcome back to LSRTV for coverage of the Northwest Racing Series and its ARCA Series. Post-race coverage is now underway. Justin Prince, Sam Dyer with you with Charles Wood in the director's seat. But it was Dennis Moore who took home the victory by more than 15 seconds. He now joins us from Victory Lane. Dennis, first things first, you're the first multi-time winner this season. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's awesome. This series is tough, obviously. Got a couple incidents in the past couple races that kept me from winning those, but this one was pretty smooth. I like this track a lot. Get a save in front, right front and the right rear, so it fits my style.
I mean, Dennis, you've done so well here today. The last time we saw you won was at Darlington, and we saw that win that you got in the ARCA Series really translate to the Cup and the trucks. Do you feel like you've learned something here today that's going to help you for these upcoming races?
I think so. I'm pretty sure you'll have to save the right rear in the trucks as well. I haven't driven them yet on this track, but we'll test that this weekend, try to build a set and keep up with all the other guys.
Now, week off, and then it's a road course swing. It's Laguna Seca, then it is Sebring. Your thoughts on the next two races being on the road courses?
To be honest, I'm not looking forward to it. And road courses. I like to turn left. That's about it.
On that note, anyone you want to thank for your run tonight?
Obviously, you guys in the booth, LSRTV, Tom Denchel Auto Group for sponsoring all three series. Jeff Stabnow, all the guys, all the admins in the Northwest Series, James Vining, the guys who put on this series in the ARCA, and the guys at Beaver State Racing.
Congratulations on the victory tonight.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Dennis Moore, your winner tonight by more than 15 seconds over James Vining. James Vining is now standing by. And James, first things first, we have to ask, what happened on that final pit stop sequence for you?
I hit the button saying I was pitting in, and I went up high to let Dennis go by, and I didn't see him. So I was like, where is he? And I look over into my side mirror, and I see he was pitting, and I was like, oh. And as soon as I went to pit, I realized I was too far forward. I missed pit lane, so I had to go around for another lap.
I mean, James, it just looked like it was so hard to come back from that little mistake. Did you feel like you were pushing your tires so much early on in that last run because you were trying to make up that time?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was pushing it for everything. I didn't check to see what the wear was on that one, but I also messed up at the very first run. I didn't have my brake bias right, and so that was one of my problems there. At the very first run before the first pit, I overheated the front tire really bad. I only had 6% left when I actually pitted.
Well, that's a lot of tire wear to say the very least, but what are the positives you can take from this, especially since this is one of your best finishes this season?
Well, there's a lot, actually. Knowing that what I was thinking would work actually worked. Knowing that I can still drive, that I'm not finishing, 2 laps down, 1 lap down, or not finishing at all. and just for going forward on this track, some of the stuff I learned, where to run, where not to run, how hard to push the car, the brake bias stuff, how the tire acts, should really help me out a lot at least in the truck series.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Oh yeah, a whole bunch of people. All my teammates, Da Vinci, Rob Gamble for helping me with the series, Jeff Stabnow, of course, for everything he's done. If it wasn't for him, I would not be iRacing anymore. He's been great. He gives so much, and he spends so much time helping us. It's just amazing. The Tom Denchel group, really appreciate them. They appreciate them coming on, and with Kevin Smith with getting them on here, and everybody that races here. These are a great bunch of people, and makes admin in this and setting stuff up so easy when these guys are just awesome. Everybody that runs this series is just awesome.
Congratulations on the run tonight, James.
Thank you very much.
James Vining coming home in second tonight, started off in seventh. Carl Burke matched his best finish of the season with the third place run today. That matched his run from Darlington. He is now standing by. And Carl, how would you break things down today, as things seem to work out very well for you?
Yeah, I was kind of concerned that real long green run we had there early, and it threw me off my desired pit cycles, but it did work out. I didn't get stuck in the pits during a yellow like I have a couple races in the other series.
I mean, Carl, you had a great qualifying run, and then you came back and tried the strategy out of being the last car to really pit and have those fresh tires. You know, we started to notice you were struggling on trying to save your tires in those first couple of stints. Here later on, did you like the fact that you were able to just run as hard as you had to?
Yeah, but once again, I overcooked my tires. I thought I could catch James, but I got as close as 3 seconds, and then I realized I couldn't catch him, so I saved what little tires I had left.
Next few races go to road courses. What's your approach going to be like as you go left and right, both at Laguna Seca and Sebring?
I like the road courses. I'm not a road course ace or anything, but I enjoy them, and I usually do pretty well, so kind of looking forward to it.
Anyone you want to thank for your run tonight?
Oh, yeah. I want to first thank my new sponsors, Dean and Joni at Cast Iron Cooking, Outdoor Cast Iron Cooking. They have shows on YouTube if you want to check out some good stuff, and they do real nice scenery shots with their drones and stuff. I'd like to thank my team, VSM, Rocket Setups, Rocket Racing Setups, CVS, ESBN, and Cindy from California, who always encourages me and prods me along, and all the guys that race here. It's a pretty good group overall, and James and Frank, who administrate this thing. It's working out real good.
Congratulations on the run tonight, Carl.
All right, thanks a lot. Hey, and thanks to you guys too for broadcasting. Really appreciate it. It's good.
Once again, I'd like to thank Carl Burke, James Vining, and Dennis Moore for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here today. Carl Burke finishing in third, Vining second, Moore in first. Now, Sam, your final thoughts on how things went down here today at Dover.
Oh, man, I was surprised that we were able to have so many green flag runs. I think for some drivers, they're ready for this break. But I think some are ready for this break and not ready for road course racing. It is going to be a wild one. The next two races are going to be at road courses, and they're really tough ones. That at Laguna Seca and also at Sebring, it is going to be a tall task as these drivers move on in this regular season.
With that, it's time to say goodbye. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for today's exciting action here on LSRTV. For my co-announcer, Sam Dyer, for producer, Charles Wooden, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. You've been watching LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Congratulations to Dennis Moore, your winner from the Monster Mile.